let me just spend a minute on the racism of it. When we have misandry, that is the hating of men and the ignoring of men's and boys' issues, we invariably also not just being sexist, we're also being racist. So for example, in the United States, by far and away, the biggest group of people who are having problems are Black males. Black males are far more likely to be in prison. They're far more likely to be street homeless. They're far more likely to be graduating from high school, to be educated, more likely to be drug addicts, et cetera, et cetera. The police are 25 times as likely to shoot a Black male as they are a Black female. And so when you ignore, and the single biggest cause of Black males' problems is fatherlessness. And so boys, men, and fathers being ignored is significantly hurting the Black male, but we only see it from a race perspective, but the other half of Black male is male. And if we reverse this and we ignored Black females who are doing much better than Black males, we would, even though they are doing better, we would call that misogyny, but we don't even hear the word misandry. We don't suggest that anyone who doesn't hear that Black males are having problems is not just sexist, but also racist. And so Tracy, I think it is, your point is extremely accurate and valid. And, and then I guess the deeper question behind it is, why is this? And the brief answer to why it is, I believe, is that historically and biologically, men were trained to be disposable.
The clip that you just heard was from Warren Farrell. This video URL will be in the description. And even though it's brief, and even though the passage was only like maybe a minute or two, but when you hear it coming out of a white man's mouth rather than a Black man's, because everybody thinks that this doesn't exist because it comes out of a Black man's mouth, like Dr. Tiesan Johnson, PhD motherfucker, and Dr. Tommy Curry, and Dr. Ronald Neal, and the Green Gorilla have been saying this for years, especially Dr. Tiesan Johnson. He's been saying this for, 10, 15 years. And because he's a Black man, he's considered a whiner. Dr. Tommy Curry is considered a pariah and crazy because he's been saying this for the last 10, 15 years. And the term misandry is getting popular because it's coming out of these scholars' mouths, especially Black misandry, which Black misandry is not new. Black misandry has been going on for 400 years in this country. It's not new, the hatred of Black men. But to hear it coming out of somebody that looks like our so-called oppressor so succinctly, this could have been the opening to Dr. Johnson's show every day, because he always talks about that. That's what Black male studies is about, how to get rid of Black misandry, how to correct this ongoing deficit that Black boys and Black men suffer from. And he just said it within the first minute with a straight face. It wasn't even like he had to hesitate or even think about it. And he said it far and away. Black men are the most oppressed class in this country. It's not even close. And that Black women are doing much, much better than Black men, because for Black women, there's a safety net. For all women, there's a certain safety net, right? And that safety net exists and has existed. Even back in slavery days, there was a safety net for Black women. Even during the coffles, if you go back and listen to the half that's never been told, or the American Slave Coast, or slavery's capitalism, okay, Black men got iron chains around their legs and neck to the point where it chafed and cut the skin. Okay, Black women got a rope, a loosely tied, for the most part, a loosely tied rope. They got fed more. They got time to rest. They weren't beaten, so they lived longer. They got less work. They got punished less. Up until the 1940s, the average lifespan of a Black man was less than 30 years old. It's up until the 1940s. Still today, but the Black man's average lifespan is 5 to 10 years less than everybody else. The Black man lives shorter lives than everybody else. Less healthy, less protected, less opportunities, and it's not even close. I don't even know why they still do the surveys, or why they still collect the statistics, because they're not going to change anything. Even your women, do you hear your women I don't think I've ever even heard a woman bring this up about black men. These are supposed to be your better half. These are the people that are supposed to help you. And they don't. But to hear a white man who our sisters say hate our guts, say words that if I've ever seen it come out of a woman's mouth in that particular way. And you probably won't. Why? Because it would disadvantage her. She would lose something. She would have to give up something and share it with her man. That's what Monahan was saying. That's how come they started that thing, blame the victim. All Monahan really wanted to do was bring black men up to par with black women. They didn't want to really put black women as a deficit, as in second place. They wanted to bring black men up to par with the same rights and opportunities as black women had. And Monahan was a white man who one of our oppressors. Monahan was no bleeding heart liberal. He was a pragmatist. He was trying to get a problem solved. He said the best way forward for the black family is bring the black man up to par. Bring the black family into the family of other families. In other words, make them just like any other American family. Well, we don't like patriarchy, but you live in a patriarchal country. And the gynocracy for 200 years hasn't fared us well. Did it allow us to survive under extreme circumstances? Yeah, well, maybe it did, but it never allowed us to thrive. And when it came time to move to the next step, guess what happened? Your black woman moved ahead of you, but the thing is she kept you in the same spot. So instead of being even or elevated, which she could have easily done, she could have easily told the white woman, no, we're not selling out our men. It's his time, and we're gonna bet on them. We're gonna bet on our men that our men can make our families better. We're gonna bet that our men can bring us out of this. We're gonna bet that our men can make us successful. Guess what she did? She sided with the white woman, that we, the white woman and the black woman, can vie for leadership, because that's what black women really wanted. And we went from a we, which is the black people in the Negro's plight, and from being black first, which black men have always said that we were black first, into woman first. I just read that, from Julia Hare, and this is a black woman this is a womanist scholar. She said we went from black women went from black first to woman first and black second. And this is her writing in 1988. The womanist movement, even though it pretends to be a liberation movement, is liberating for black women. It's not liberating for black men. Because if you look at the feminists and the racist, where are the black men? They're still where? At the bottom. You're still the most homeless. You're still the one that gets put in jail most. You're still the one that gets killed most, that dies first, that dies earliest. You're still the sickest. You're still the least employed. You're the one that doesn't have opportunities and no safety net. You're the one that's least educated. That's something that was supposed to be addressed in the 1960s. Only 10% of your black boys can read at grade level. And this is 2020. This was 2020. This wasn't, 1820 or 1920 or 1950. It was 2020. And these are the boys. You just had that scandal in Baltimore where the little black boy only passed 2 classes in 4 years, and the mama in the school didn't care. That's what Warren Farrell is talking about. That's what he's saying. That is at the heart of black misandry. Not all this, I'm independent, don't need no man, and niggas ain't shit, and they're abandoning their families and all that kind of stuff. That's not black misandry. The name calling is not black misandry. Black men being homeless, being the biggest homeless population, is black misandry. Black misandry is during the COVID crisis, the first to die, the most vulnerable people in the nation during the first parts of the COVID crisis were black men, and nobody cared. The biggest group, initially the biggest group to lose their jobs were black men, and nobody cared. It only became a crisis when black women started losing their jobs, and they couldn't go into the factories, into the Amazon factories and the Amazon warehouses and work like slaves. Then it became a crisis when they stopped allowing black women to be cashiers and basically telemarketers and working in offices. Then it became a crisis. All of a sudden now, whoa, wait a minute, black women are getting put out in the streets and they're losing their jobs and there's nobody at home with the kids. Nobody really talked about black fathers very much until all of a sudden you really need them during a crisis, that these women can't depend on the school system and the daycare system to supplement themselves to where they can actually exist without a black man, without a father. Well, now it's a crisis. When black males were suffering, when black men were suffering, nobody said anything. And I'm getting goddamn tired of having black male issues wrapped up in the middle of a black struggle, and then black women taking advantage of us when they can go women first all day long. It's got to the point where black women, when they compare it against anything, talking about how much money they make or how they're doing as far as education, they don't even include black men in that equation, because they put up the chart about how they're doing as compared to everybody else, and they actually put black males right next to them. They would be embarrassed. And the only time they talk about black male education and black male success is because when they can't find a husband on their level. They've been complaining about that for 40 years. They can't find a black man on their level. Well, what have they done to improve the situation? Nothing. They're still saying the same thing they said 50 years ago. You're talking about 3-4 generations. And guess what they've done? Guess what they've tried to do? Nothing. Did they try to close the gap between black men and black women as far as education and earnings and opportunities? No, they widened the gap. They forcibly widened the gap and then complain about the gap widening. They suppress their men, suppress their boys, and then complain that the boys aren't doing as well. Well, God damn it, if you take your black fucking boot off our neck, maybe we could. The Brookings Institute, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, all talk about the suppression and the plight of black boys and black men. And guess what? The first thing come out of a black woman's mouth is it's a lie. It's not true. It's the first thing. And the second thing that comes out of their mouths, if they can't prove that it's not true, is what about the girls? What about the women? When does it get to be your turn, black man? You go to bat for these women constantly, because I hear you guys. Well, we got to talk nice to them, or we got to approach them in a certain way, or we can't. We have to sit down and have a dialogue with them. Sit down and have a dialogue with them for what? Oh man, we have to keep the black community together, and we have to soldier up. We have to alpha our way through it. How you gonna alpha your way through it when you got a goddamn red bottom heel on your neck? And instead of throwing that boot off your neck, that red bottom boot off your neck, what do? You lick it. I'm getting goddamn sick of this, man. When will black men stop licking the boots of black women as they put their foot on their neck? Unless we just like a dominatrix. Black women become a dominatrix, a social dominatrix. They whip our ass, they put their foot on our neck, and we, instead of us throwing their boot and they're taking their foot off our necks, guess what? We lick the heels like little lap dogs and beg to lick the heels. And the ones that do manage to throw off the shackles and get the black one's foot off your neck and the white man's foot off your neck, guess what? You get shamed. Oh no, brother, you need to come back. You need to lay your ass back down. You need to be kissing her foot again, because we're all doing it. And it looks bad if you're not doing it. It makes her look bad. Come on, man. At what point do black men take pride in themselves? Pride in what you want. Pride in what you want to be. Pride in what your goals are. And your goals shouldn't be to serve a black woman, okay? I'm gonna date a black woman. Really, all she wants you to do is kiss her ass. You look at them lining up when they so-called come to the table. They don't come to the table telling you how they're gonna help you. No, they don't. They come to the table telling if you meet our demands, what we want. They want us to talk sweet to them, breathe life into them, talk about her dreams and not supporting her. They never say anything about supporting you. They never come together about solving your problems. Hell, they don't even come together to talk about solving their boys' problems, because it's an inconvenient truth. There's a psychological and philosophical black hole, a no zone that everybody walks past. Oh, well, you know what? We're just going to ignore all these social ills and structural ills that are on black men because we don't want to do anything about it. Oh, every now and then some black dude gets shot by the police, and well, that's just one of those things. So we're gonna rally together and we're gonna march and we're gonna protest. And guess what? When the money comes, guess where it's gonna go? It's not gonna go to black men. It's not gonna help black boys. It's not gonna go to a black male school. It's not gonna go to a black code camp to get these boys out of poverty and teach them skills for the 21st century. None of that. When we get $10 billion from Goldman Sachs, we're going to keep all of that. We're going to put it in an all-girls program so girls can actually lead and girls can actually compete. Because they're not competing against you anymore, black men. That's the falsehood. They're not competing against you anymore. They're competing against white men and white women because you don't matter anymore. The only time you matter is when you step out of line, when you step out of your place. Then all three of those entities, white men, white women, and black women, are going to have a foot up your ass in varying degrees. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to wake up? Because if we could have taken the boot off of our necks with our black women, we'd have done it a long time ago. You know, back in the day during slavery, and a slave got a chance to get free, he didn't run in the house trying to kill the master or fight with the master. He got his black ass up and he got his hat and he ran as far and as fast as he could away from that plantation into freedom. Because he knew if the odds were, if he went back to confront the master over his treatment, he's going to go back in the chains and make it worse than it was before. He's just going to get a beating. You think your black woman is not an overseer. She is. And she likes her role as an overseer because she gets rewarded for being an overseer. She looks at you like you're supposed to be servile. And it doesn't matter what value you are, whether you're a high value man or whether you're a low value man. She looks at you the same way. There's no difference between a skilled slave back in the day and a field slave. Now, did the master value the skilled slave more? But yeah, because he brought him in more money. Versus the field slave? Yes, he did. And when we talk about high value male, as far as women are concerned that line up trying to get him, all they're looking at you is a skilled slave. Why? Because you're bringing in more money. The same way the white man looks at you. Not that you're inherently better, or that your humanity is worth more, or that your knowledge is worth something, or that who you are is worth more. No, what kind of lifestyle and what kind of resources can you bring to me? You're a bundle of resources, and you can negotiate better treatment. Why? Because you bring in resources. No woman that I've heard in the last year and a half, as far as a high value man or a man at a particular station. And trust and believe, if you look at the Quavo versus Sweetie tape, right? Now he's a baller, 100 octane class, right? He's one of the top 1% of all black men, right? He got swung on just like a dude in the hood, man. She treated him just like a ratchet chick treats a thug in the hood, man. She swung on him and fought with him in the elevator. Had she been in the car, she'd have ran him over just like the LaQuisha down the street would have ran over Tyrone or Jamal. Because they all look at you the same way. What can you do for me? What have you done for me lately? And if you can't, you're no good. We're going to toss you aside. In fact, we might even sell you. Like that grandmother had her grandson kill his grandfather for money, for the life insurance. Just like Warren Farrell always says. And it's doubly true for a black man. You're not a human being, you're human doing. You're a bullet bag. I'm not surprised that some mothers don't rejoice when their son gets shot because it's payday. Now, I know that's mean. I know. Go ahead and burn my handbasket when I go to hell, okay? I know that's mean, but that's what I'm feeling today. When you wake up, black man, I can understand black women doing what they do because guess what? It benefits them. How does this shit benefit you? And it's black men that are first to try to police our language. We have to help the sisters. The sisters don't need no help. We protesters, we fought for 100 years to get civil rights, to get a leg up, to get an equal playing field. And the sisters actually benefited way more than we did, even though it was our bodies that are buried in those fields. If you look at Black Wall Street, it wasn't black female bodies they were digging up. Those are black male bodies they were digging up, that are still digging up. When you look outside those prisons, those work prisons in Texas, in Louisiana, in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Georgia, in Florida, when they go to the prison graves and dig up those thousands and thousands of those so-called prisoners who were actually slaves that they worked to death, those aren't female bodies. When are we going to stop pretending? At least white men know where they stand with their women. And white men demand a certain kind of deference because they know they got to die and they know that they're a resource. And white women actually kowtow to it because they know that white men will have to die and that white men are resources. But at least they give at least lip service to it. Same thing with Latinos, not our black women. And then they wonder why black men are leaving. You know what? Boomers and Gen X, we the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet. We are. To put up with this for so long and then still defend it. Come on. Wake up, black men. Let me cut this off before I start really cussing. I'm too old for this, man. I'm like, what's his name in Danny Glover and in Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this shit. Just heard a young man in his 30s talk about calling his father a sucker for being a good man. And he knows that his father's a good man. But the thing is, because his father wouldn't let his mother keep her foot on his neck, he ain't shit. And then she persuades her son to think just like she does. And we accept it like it's normal. And they get mad when somebody tells them different. Wake up, black man. That's all I gotta say. Wake up. All right, you know what? I've used my little half can of whoop ass. I'm gonna put the rest in the refrigerator. Save some for tomorrow. But with that, I'm gonna jump off here. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.